welcome to the Thursday edition of Panola Pride. I'm Jerry Hansen. Our guest today is Mrs. LaGrone, and our program is made possible by Superior Homes in Longview, located at 1225 West Marshall. If you need a manufactured home, a single wide or double wide, we highly recommend the fine folks at Superior Homes in Longview. I have no announcements, but you do, and while you're making those, I'm going to get up and adjust the camera.
Okay. I have one important announcement that I think people will be interested in hearing. We have talked to Mr. Marvin Brown in North Carolina, in Winston-Salem, where our history book is being printed, and they have finished them, and we're waiting for orders from us to send them out. And we have sent those orders in as of today. So in about another week, we'll have the history books.
Good.
The latter part of next week, I guess. They are already printed, and just the shipping and paying for them and so on is all that lacks being done, and that's being done this week.
All righty. Well, let's jump right into our program. And what interesting information about Panola County history do you have for us today?
I had heard some hints about some hard times in Jefferson, Texas. And then I read Kent Biffle's Texana column in the Dallas News Sunday, and I always read it. And it is about the sale of one of the auction sale of one of the most treasured heritage houses in Jefferson, the House of Seasons, Four Seasons House.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, well, you know, we're all bordering on the edge of hard times, so maybe to talk about Jefferson, our neighbor, would be of value today. So I did a little looking back. I had a little booklet on Jefferson, and then I have made various tours over there and gone to different meetings over there, and I'm like most people that go, I'm grabbed by the heritage they have preserved, and that's just all they have now. If something happens to that, they'll have to start over with working something up. So I thought maybe the discussion of the history and glory of Jefferson and how it came to hard times once before, and some people with vision got busy and channeled their interest in a new direction, and now if it gets hard times again, and they have been the tourist center of East Texas, actually, I mean, so far as people coming to see and to experience it. And somebody will come up with a vision again, maybe. And this is the hope. We don't want to see it become a ghost town like some others have, but Jefferson has a story worth telling. And some of our people may not know that it was, compared to Houston, as a center for trade and shipping back just before and after the Civil War. And the reason for that was it was on a bayou that was big enough and deep enough to allow steamboats. Mm-hmm. And that was part of the lakes and bayous that are still there, but after the Civil War, it was just in its heyday, actually, when the government of the United States figured out a way to break the raft, the natural raft that had built up near Shreveport, and that had stopped the water on Red River enough to back it up.
Is this referred to as the old log jam?
Yes, that's the old log jam, and that log jam is what made that a shipping channel for Jefferson, because the water, you can now go on a little boat ride in those bayous and swamps. That's one of the things that they do as a novelty. And they will show you on the trees the line that the water used to come to, you know. And when that log jam, it had to be blown apart because it was formed, I guess it started being formed according to the Indian lore when the volcanoes formed that lake back in 1812 or something like that. There was all along that fault line, there were upheavals underneath, and this made the lake area, and then knocked down trees that floated down, of course, and began to form, and it was a natural raft. It was not something somebody built, but it held the water until the backwater filled the bayous and made them deep enough ships. But in the early days, and I have read the stories of some of the early settlers that came up that way to settle along Red River and on over into Clarksville area and over. What a struggle they had getting around that raft as they came up, because they had to find their way through the swamps and through channels of water deep enough to carry the boats and so on. Well, this is what used to be, and because ships were the main communication, they built up quite a trade business. And Jefferson became, as I said a while ago, equivalent in northeast Texas to Houston and southeast Texas. They were both on bayous that would allow good-sized steamboats. And so all of the northeast Texas counties started hauling cotton to Jefferson. And somewhere in my notes here I have an approximate number of bales of cotton they had a year, but I notice here that I have made a notation that their population reached 30,000 people. Well, now, of course, it's just a little village now, because when the business died, the reason that it died completely was when they opened that raft of logs, and the water then went downstream and practically emptied these bayous to what they are now, the natural bayous, and that wasn't deep enough for ship travel. And so they didn't have business, and they began to move out. Now, they had started manufacturing, and a number of things had been started there, and we'll talk about some of those. But businesses began to leave, and the reason for that was there was no transportation. The railroads came right at that time, but they came just before they realized that they weren't going to have water transportation, and so they didn't want railroads messing up their town. They had water travel, and that was what they wanted. So they didn't, it was like Old Beckville up here. Old Beckville didn't let the railroads come through without charging too much for the land, and so they went around them. Well, that happened in Jefferson. They just backed back, and Jay Gould, as he's given credit for having said, that Jefferson will dry up and be gone because it's refusing the railroads, and that's the thing of the future. Well, it did. Railroads did have their day, because now that the water traffic was not available, then shipping started being by train as soon as those railroads went through there. And of course, the depot was way out of town, a little nothing to say. It never was much of a depot, I understand. And so people began to take their cotton to Shreveport, and Jefferson just dwindled away, and some people of vision began to see that they had to do something else, and they had built some beautiful homes. There were a lot of them there, and they had a lot of heritage treasures, and they began to see the value of that, and for that reason they built up this interesting situation that's known all over the country. Have you been to Jefferson yet? Have you toured Jefferson? That's such an interesting, anybody that's interested in living of a century ago would be interested in touring Jefferson. Well, they may face that again. They have hung on to that now, and it has been a living for them and an interesting thing. But this jolt that things are not going so good now is understandable because tourism is off. You don't take a trip when you haven't got money. And money is scarce right now. And people will be touring again when the tight financial situation is loosened, if ever. And it may, if they can hold on, they may see another day of heritage interest. And people are more interested in heritage now than they were 20 years ago, very much more. But you got to have something else too to make a living. Now we're trying, all of us, I think, all the civic organizations and everybody that's interested in Carthage are trying to build up as much tourist interest here as possible, because that is, and has been for a long time, the second income thing in Texas, for tourists to come to Texas. They spend money when they come. So tourism is good, but you got to have some other things along with it. You can't just depend on that totally. So some other brilliant person is going to have to come up with an idea. Now this Four Seasons house, the picture of it's here, but everybody that's been to Jefferson has toured that house, I guess. It is named Four Seasons because this cupola up here has different color window glass on each side, representing the seasons. Spring is green, I believe, and summer yellow, and autumn orange, or orange brown, and finally winter then the white. And it's called the House of the Seasons. And it was built, of course, back when they were building these fine houses. But Mr. Biffle found it pathetic that it has gone up for sale. Everything in it went with it, just the house as it is. The couple that had bought it years ago and restored it are still, I suppose, they live in Dallas, but they've separated. The family's broken up, and they've lost interest in it, and they just were letting it go down now. And I suppose there were debts against it, so they let it go up for. Well, I know there were debts against it because the company that bought it said they bought it for the price that they had invested in it. And so it'll be for sale again. But that's one of the popular houses and has all the historical medallions and everything on it.
And if you're ever in Jefferson, you're going to go by that house.
You want to go by that house.
If you're
because,
on a tour, they're going to carry you by.
Yes, they'll carry you by, because you go up a winding stair right up to that little tower at the top. Well, this is the kind of thing that they have had for their enjoyment, and the holidays and special seasons are built around their tours of all these things. They have some things going on all the time, and they're interested in keeping these things going for the benefit of their own people. They have a good museum, and of course that is of interest to visitors, but again, business is it needs to be varied, and some wise person is going to come up with some investment to make in something, and that's the way a town or a community blossoms, and if it doesn't change, that kind of living passes. We've seen that happen in our lives all the time. Think of what a cotton-growing country this was, and I doubt if you can find a patch of cotton in Panola County.
Almost the same with tomatoes and
tomatoes, right? The tomato sheds had their day, and they're gone.
Basket factory was.
Yeah, a basket factory was a big income area for Carthage, and it's gone. And those baskets still are being made somewhere else, somebody else. For instance, I remember 20 years ago, 25 years ago maybe, I was at a national teachers convention and in Florida, and they had a big supper, basket supper, and the baskets were passed out, and the baskets were from Jacksonville, Texas.
Is that right?
And here we were in Florida. It was a fruit basket, but the basket itself was made in East Texas. Well, we're not making them now here nor Jacksonville either, I don't guess. I don't hear of Jacksonville baskets now. Well, things change. People become interested in other things, and then if we don't come up with some new ideas. Well, what are some of the things that Jefferson had? First of all, one of the most interesting things that I found about Jefferson was a man there invented the first artificial ice. Now, this goes back historically to thousands of years. In ancient history and literature, I have come upon the people of Estonia, and we've been hearing in history about the Estonians rising up, you know, when all this uprising against Russia came. The Estonians are on the edge of all of that. And they had, according to King Alfred was a king of England about in the 700s A.D. Well, that'd be nearly 2,000 years ago. And he told about some of his soldiers being in Estonia and coming through and telling the story of how they could produce cold. And he described the funerals there. And the funerals were held by placing the body in a room and creating cold in that room until even water would freeze. And while they kept it like that, frozen, until they had games, athletic games, and contests, and used up the estate of the dead person. See, the estate was prorated out to winners of sort of an Olympic kind of thing, and they used up his estate, then they buried him. And they produced that cold, and King Alfred said that was lost. No English descendants knew about how it was done. That was lost. Well, I find no other place in literature at all, anywhere, about artificial ice until the man discovered how to do it in Jefferson, Texas, after the Civil War. And we have vivid descriptions of the ice, and they began to put it in their drinks. And it's been told to me that they had a religious convention, a Baptist convention in Jefferson, and delegates went from the Baptist church in Timpson and came back and told about having ice. And this was in July. And the people thought that had whiskey and got drunk. They'd gotten drunk, and they wouldn't believe them and were about to church them. And they sent further delegates to Jefferson to investigate and found out, sure enough, they were making ice.
I'd stop you. You used a term just then. You said they were about to church them.
Yes, to church, to turn them out of the church. It was called churching them. I don't think they do that now, do they?
I hope not.
But if they had found that they sent them as delegates for their church and found they got drunk, that would be a definite reason for churching them, as they called it. Okay, that was one of the events that came out of the ice. But the tragedy of that was they built an ice house, and the ice did not freeze through and through. It was a big sheet, but it was thin. And so it didn't, it melted pretty fast. But they had an ice house and produced ice, and the man who discovered it went north. They made up money to send him north to get backing to produce it in large numbers. I remember when I was a child, in the geographies it showed cutting ice and storing it in caves up north, out of the lakes in the north, and storing it in caves to be used in the summer, and is sent by train south, right up to the end of the century, really. So this was one of the things that they had there, but the man lost it. He never came back. They never heard of him again. And his partner back at Jefferson finally went bankrupt because he was just helping with it, and the real discoverer was gone. So the ice, even one man thought he would have it for the whole summer, and he filled a cistern with it. And, of course, all it did was melt, but they had cold water a while. And that's one thing. Okay. You're too young to remember the Kelly plow. They had a Kelly ironworks, and they manufactured plows and other iron things, and had a pretty good thing going because they have near Jefferson lots of iron. And so this was just getting into its development glory when they lost the shipping, and so it deteriorated. They were brilliant people, and they were stunned, I imagine, when they lost all this. And then they came up with the idea, well, let's use what we have. Well, that's what they're going to have to do again. They're going to have to be some leadership that will pull them out of that. They can't sell many of these heritage houses at auction, because that's the last straw when they're sold at auction. Now, if some big financier comes in and hunts the choice house, that's one thing. But to put these houses up on auction block, that's another. And so I think this may be a warning to all of us. We have all around us places where there used to be thriving communities, but because the resources or the interest or something that had them moved on somewhere else, then they were deserted and eventually were gone. Just like the villages along the river. The crossings of the river were busy towns. There was Grand Bluff, there was Pulaski, and others probably not that busy in this county, but all up and down the rivers. But when the day of bridges came, nobody needs help at a crossing of a river, so there are not any people going to camp there till a wagon train crosses, and that's what they were living on. Well, this is a story that that tells us all that time marches on. And no matter how much we love things as they are, we have to have two visions. One, to take care of what we have, and another, to add modern interest to it. And this is what they're facing, and what may all of us be facing. But Jefferson is a magic word. Everywhere that you talk about East Texas tourism, and every writer has been there and everything, but since tourism is down some, they need a shot in the arm.
Well, let's certainly hope that they receive that shot.
I hope so, too.
It might encourage everyone, if you haven't made a short trip to historic.
Oh, by all means, do go.
Go up to Jefferson,
yeah.
See what they have to offer as far as the train. They have the old train.
Yes, that's new.
Yes.
I mean, getting that railroad track going, that's, yes.
And the kids enjoy that because
yes.
they have a shootout on the way. And
oh, do they?
The
now,
train
I
is
haven't
live.
been on the train trip. It's new.
I have.
Good, good.
And I highly recommend it. Might want to carry at this time of year, carry a can of Deep Woods Off or something, but
because there are.
Well, it goes right down through
the swamps.
You know.
Well,
and they have the boats area there too. Where
yeah.
you, as you've mentioned.
Yes,
there.
I've been on the boat trail.
It's as you said, beautiful homes and
yes.
nice restaurants.
And yes, good food.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, Marcia Thomas is the actress that has brought a lot of people. She does one-woman shows in a living room, and it seats about, I guess, 50. And so it's a very personal thing, and she has done several. She's written and produced several. So that's entertainment in the evening if you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the old Excelsior Hotel is a show place, and
several bed and breakfast
yes, a whole
homes
bunch.
up there.
One couple from this community has one, and that's the Sullivans.
Mm-hmm.
No, Milams. Deanie Sullivan's sister
Okay.
that married P.L. Milam's brother, and she has one of those bed and breakfasts in Jefferson. She told me that.
If you never stayed at a bread and
Well,
breakfast, that's hard for me to say.
Yeah.
A bed and breakfast. They're quite neat and
Yeah,
just,
that's
in
just-
fact, probably a little tad above staying at a nice hotel. You know.
Right.
'Cause they-
Well, because it has history.
Special.
Yeah, it's very special. You don't find them everywhere, but they're all over Europe.
I'm finding out. I have a son that's calling in and telling me about it now.
Oh, he's in Europe now.
He is in Europe now.
Oh,
So
yes.
we may have to have a special
And he's
program on
going
that.
to the bed and breakfast place.
That's
Has he tried them?
he has and said this very nice. So.
Good, that's great. I hadn't tried it, but a good many people tell me they rent cars and when they get over there and
Make their tours.
Uh-huh.
We're completely out of time.
Well,
But it's been a very interesting program. And
well, it has for me to look back and say, what's happened to Jefferson?
it's looking at history as we always
As
do.
we live it.
That's right. We can also see what could or could not possibly happen here locally.
Right, right.